Hey, so you guys want to start working on your own bike and building up your own bikes, but you don't really know where to start? Well, then this is the perfect video for you. So, I just moved. And well, I basically have to start from scratch again on building up my bike workshop. So, let me show you what I've got going on so far. So, this is going to be the space where I work on my bikes. It's pretty small, but it will do. And if you have really any space in your house, your apartment, even communal spaces, you too can work on your own bikes at home. So you found a spot in your home or your apartment or even a communal space that you can use to work on your own bikes. How do you then get started working on your own bikes? Probably the most important thing to have to get started working on your own bike is tools. Bikes have a lot of bike specific tools that you won't find in an ordinary toolbox. So it's really important that you invest in and get some bike specific tools. So I reached out to my friends and asked them what were the three most important bike tools that you use most often while working on bikes. The response was varied and came back with that there's actually a lot more than three tools that you need to work on your bike consistently. My two friends, Gary and James, recommended that I get a bike starter toolkit that has all of the necessary bike tools to get me started working on my bikes again. This is the bike starter toolkit, and I'll go through what tools it includes, as well as the few tools that I recommend that you get outside of this toolkit as well, just to help get you started working on your bike. So over here, we can see that this is the spoke wrench tool. This will help tighten all of your spokes down, and comes with all of the different sizes that your spoke aglet thingies might be. Then here we have our bottom bracket tool. This is for most square taper bottom brackets. However, some square taper bottom brackets have different spline patterns. Therefore, this might not work on all square taper bottom brackets, but this tends to be the most common one here. Next, we have our chain breaker tool here, right in the middle. Then we have our crank puller, but this is the size of most of the bolts that hold on your crank arm. So you can use this side of the crank puller to get the crank arm bolt off, and then you can use the other side to actually pull the crank. Then we have our freewheel tool up here, our cassette tool. Then we have a multi-in-one tool here. We have a chain whip attached to a lock ring tool, as well as on the other side, we have our 15 mil wrench, I believe. And then underneath it all, you get a set of Allen keys. So this is a great start for your bike toolkit. But to add on top of this, some things that you will need while working on your bike are some tire levers. These are pretty cheap. You can get them for like $1 most places. Some bike shops might even give them away for free. And the last thing that I would recommend is a adjustable wrench. You are going to need lots of different wrench sizes beyond the one that's put in the toolkit, especially for using tools like your bottom bracket, freewheel, or cassette tool. These will not fit in the wrench provided here. So it's really important that you get yourself an adjustable wrench as well if you don't already have one. The one thing that I will say to this is you truly get what you pay for when you're buying tools. So these bike toolkits are pretty cheap, which means that they're not the best tools and they probably won't last forever. The best example of this is chain breakers. If you're willing to invest in your tools and get a much higher quality tool like the Park Tool chain breaker, you'll notice that the pin tool that pushes out the pins in the chains is actually removable on the Park Tool chain breaker. And this is because when breaking chains with your chain breaker tool, there is a chance that you break the pin on your chain breaker. And this is something that has happened to me multiple times before in the past. And when you have one of those cheaper chain breaker tools, you will then have to replace the whole tool itself instead of just being able to screw out the broken pin and screw in a new one. So when thinking about getting started working on your bikes, these bike starter toolkits are a great place to start, but it is definitely worthwhile to invest in some higher quality tools down the line. So you have your tools and you're ready to start working on your own bike. How do you start? My piece of advice to you is to start small. Start with something that's very obtainable and pretty easy, like changing out a cassette. Something that isn't necessarily super complex and can help give you that first win when working on your bike. You don't necessarily want your first experience to be super negative and filled with a ton of problems, like doing a full restoration on a bike that's been sitting in somebody's barn for 40 plus years. Those aren't necessarily the best bikes to start with. Start with something simple, start with something easy, so that you can really see if this is something that you want to continue to do. My last piece of advice for you guys is something that Gary said in one of his recent Ride Talk videos. He got asked the question, how do you start your projects? And his response was, you just have to start, which is a pretty rhetorical way of answering the question, but it's so true. You have to start working on your own bike to figure out what's wrong with it, to figure out what you need to learn, to figure out all of these things. You just have to start. And once you take that first leap of taking apart your bike, you're going to learn so much. You're going to come across all of these different issues that you won't necessarily know how to fix them. But the great thing is that the internet is at our fingertips, and there are so many useful videos out there on the internet to help you learn how to work on your own bike. I fully recommend to watch all of the Park Tool tutorial videos. They are extremely helpful and some of the most informative videos out there for how to work on your bike. But beyond that, there's so many other channels that are producing great content about products that are coming out in the bike industry, as well as just build videos like the ones me and other creators online are making that can be super informative as well. So really utilize the internet when starting your bike project or doing maintenance on your own bike. And my bonus piece of advice for you guys today is check out your local bike co-op. There are so many great things that happen around your bike co-op. There's so many well-informed people that come through those places as well as work at those places. So if you have certain questions, those are some great people to talk to. And some bike co-ops will actually allow you to work on your bike with them. I know the one that I volunteered at in Australia was a place like that, where they allowed you to come in and work on your own bike under the supervision of quote unquote professionals. And so places like that that allow you to work on your bike with the surrounding of people that have been working on bikes much longer than you have is a great place to start and a great place to go for advice, and just a great place to find community within this bike world. That's all of the content I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you might be inspired by what I said and you get out there and you work on your next bike. Because the biggest thing is if you really want to work on your own bike, you just got to get started. So I hope you get started today. Anyways, that's all for today, guys. Bike Guy out. We'll see you in the next bike video.